Welcome to another episode of The Top Floor, where we explore the leadership journeys of some most influential business leaders in their industry. I'm Simon Lewis, your host, and the UAE Visitors Chair. And today we're excited to have with us a seasoned leader with over 25 years of experience in operations, strategic business growth, and development in the food and beverage industry. As the CEO of Liwa Minor Foods and Beverages LLC, he has led the joint venture between Minor International and Al Nasser Holdings, focusing on change management, turnaround strategies, and expanding the company's franchising system across the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. His extensive also includes roles at Minor International, Foodpanda, and MNH Alshaya Cone, where he has driven strategic business development, operational excellence, and brand growth. His diverse background in franchising, joint ventures, and change management, coupled with his academic achievements, make him an inspiring leader with a wealth of knowledge and experience. Today, we're going to delve into his leadership journey, his challenges, his successes, and the invaluable lessons he has learned along the way. Charl Badenhorst, a warm welcome to the Top Floor.
Hi, Simon, and absolute pleasure being here and on your podcast. Thank you for having me.
Great. I want to kick off looking at the leadership journey and your background.
Sure.
Can you start by sharing a bit about your background and how you got into the field of operations and strategic business development?
So that was a long time ago. Simon, I've been in this game 27, almost 30 years, 3 decades. But it was a humble beginning for me, Simon. And I was actually chatting to Corey. I got your name mixed up now. I was chatting to Corey last week, as I was mentioning just before we got on this, that my whole career path was so unorthodox. You know, I had no career plan. I never got into it when I want to become a CEO or I want to be into strategy. I want to be into business development. You know, I was simply just a young guy at school that needed some pocket money on the weekends, and I'd done a bit of work on the side. But I found something that I loved and I was passionate about. And 27 years later, you know, that saw me sitting here as a CEO. You know, and as I said, there was no career planning in it. What I did have, though, was I definitely always lived in the moment, I would say. I was always passionate about whatever work I was doing. I was already happy in the career path I was in. And I just lived on gut feeling. I was very carefree and I had a firm value system that whatever I do, whatever that role is, you know, regardless of title, you know, that I have to achieve at a certain level. And I think that was just my approach over the decades, you know, that short-term approach, you know, constantly learning, growing, loving my work and the camaraderie of teamwork. I think that led me through a wonderful journey, you know. And as my career and experience and education and knowledge grew, I found personal pleasure in certain parts of the business. I would say particularly in solving difficult business problems, which other people never like dealing with. Franchising for me, obviously, then was filled with continuous levels of improvement. And that was just an ongoing fuel for me to feed on, you know, with my kind of appetite for problems. So it naturally just began. It just funneled and went on.
Let's talk about then and try and identify some key milestones in that career journeys to date that led you to your current role as CEO. Can you give us some ideas around that?
Yeah. Sure. I think joining large organizations was definitely a big part of it. It was unplanned, as I said, but you know, the journey, my journey led me along joining some of the bigger companies like Minor Internationals, Alshaya's, famous brands, and there was a couple of more in the earlier days. You know, these companies were highly structured and helped me form a streamlined approach to the way I work and plan ahead. especially for the businesses and the teams that I was responsible for and that I am still responsible for today. I think that is a key milestone in it. A personal lesson that I take and I remind myself, and I've reminded my son, from a young age, because I wish I'd learned this lesson when I was very young, was in order to grow, you need to learn how to let go. You become too stuck in the moment, and succession planning and all of these development plans, they are highly important to the business, but a lot of that is held back, as a leader, where you need to actually move on. Trust your team and the effort you've put into them. Let it go. And what this does is it allows you time as a leader to actually start looking at the more important things and the more strategic parts of the business as you grow and as you move the business into a different level of success. So that I think that was definitely a key milestone that I've learned over the years. Work-life balance and reflect, I think, is a top one there for anybody in it. Work is lovely. We're all passionate about it. We all have great work ethics. Our intentions are good. We want to be at work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But in reality, we can't do that. It's, we're human. And we need to have a life balance, and there are other people in our lives that also matter. And as a human, we need to balance that. I like to keep a thing what I call a credit debit system, which again, Corey also laughed at. I said it's a very basic system, but I feel that if I take from the one, I got to give back from the other at some time. We get work projects like now this turnaround we were dealing with this last 2.5 years. It's taken a lot of time from me in my personal capacity, but it's done in phases where I spend 6 months of my time, just focusing on a specific part and getting the business to the next level. But then and then my wife has credit. Then I have to step some time out of that business and go, I need to put time aside for my wife, my child, or my kids, myself, and get some of that buzz going back again, So it's really important as you grow to keep that work-life balance for your own sanity and your performance. It really makes a difference.
It's one of the key focus points in Vistage that we ask our CEO members to consider. I mean, you've talked about lessons, and it's great to hear a CEO talking about the lessons he's learned and how he's then applied them into his current role. And look, hindsight's an exact science. We all know that. And it's one of those things that is never wrong. But to be able to recognize that, you need to get out of the weeds of the business. And you need to be able to think strategically. And perhaps one of the most effective ways of doing that is actually by enabling and empowering those around you to take on some of your work and distribute. I think that's great. You mentioned your education and your background there. You've got an MBA and you've done various leadership courses. How has that influenced your leadership style?
Good question. I believe it's a very subjective point, Simon, when it comes to studies. I think if you read some of Elon Musk's stuff, you'll see he goes, MBA is not needed or more degree is not needed. But I think if you look at it practically, some people do it as an accolade or a piece of paper. I get it. It helps them with visa applications or exploring the world or getting a perfect job. But then there's those of us that like to broaden our understanding, and I find myself in that category. I was always inquiring, I was always inquisitive, and there's a limit to what you can learn within a company and within a business. Their core focuses are around what they do and what their purpose is. But a lot of time the mind is curious about things a lot bigger than that. And I found doing business management marketing, doing MBA with a specialization in finance, it got me it gave me that opportunity to develop myself on things that I was not getting answers to, but also prepare myself for the future so that I would have that knowledge bank and ability to support others around me. There were a lot of times there were questions that were on the table commercially, and I just felt blank. I was sitting there going, I know I'm strong at this, but why can I not see what other people are seeing in their perspective? And I think study started opening that up for me. It gave me the ability to start going, those eureka moments when I remember learning this, and it wasn't instantaneous. It was during a journey, and I realized at that moment. I actually remember the time and place specific where it happened, where I sat there and I thought, I can never stop learning because I'm going to stop these eureka moments. And that's what studying was for me. And that's the value it added. It just started adding more and more eureka moments. I started adding more and more value back into the business because I actually started understanding what people were talking about on quite high level commercial points at that time. And coming from an operational background into a corporate background, it obviously it gave me quite a driving force in my career personally, which again, I just went with gut. I was curious, and it just landed up becoming quite a powerful combination for me. So I hope that answered your question. I hope that
Yeah, no, great. I mean, yeah, absolutely fine. Because as I say, there's always a huge debate around MBAs. Particularly when you see people, under the age of 25 getting an MBA, and with very little business experience. The quality of the MBA is very important, but tied in with that, as you say, it's your capability and your willingness to learn outside of the standard courses that are provided in businesses and that sort of thing. And that is down to you, very much down to you. And it's great to hear that you're still doing that even today as a successful CEO. And I want to talk about some of those successes and challenges. What's been the biggest challenge, Charl, that you faced in your leadership journey, especially in your current role?
Is it fair to say my current role was my biggest challenge?
No, I mean a bit more specific. I'm not going to let you get away with that one. Let's get into the meat of it.
Corey, I'll be honest. I was before I became the CEO for our joint ventures between Minor International and ANH. I was the director of international franchising for Minor, and ANH Liwa Minor as the joint venture was actually my franchisee. Obviously, from a franchisor perspective, there were certain internals I never knew about the business. So I came in with a typical franchisor attitude. We need to drive sales. We need to do these things. And then eventually the opportunity came up and they said, will you take over as CEO? Will you help us do this turnaround? Obviously, for me, I thought this is a lot easier said than done. And I went, all right, let's go for this. Accepted the challenge, and I believed I could. So not to paint too much of a dull picture at the start, but we had a lot of challenges, and in the beginning I thought I bit off more than I could chew. But once we got out, we dug our heels in. We had a very short window to work with, which became very clear from the day I landed. As part of our turnaround, the business had been in a difficult position for about 10 years. We were going to go into a new term for another 10 years, but we had a very short period to prove that level of success, that we were able to turn the business around and make it what it is today. So we were deep in the red. I'm not going to give the specifics, of course. We were deep in the red. I'll be in a lot of trouble for that.
That's it.
We were deep in the red. We went into the black, and within 25 months, we were toppling over onto the green, which was the first time. Yeah, it was one incredible journey. So challenge-wise, it took a lot. It took a lot from myself, but I think it took a lot with my team and change management and everybody involved. It was definitely not a one-man show. Our board was very aggressive. Obviously, they were tired of things that had happened, and it was very challenging as a CEO. You sit there, you have a team that is being beaten so hard, and you have a board that is so desperate to get results, and you have to sit and figure out, and you've got limited time. It almost becomes like those game shows you see on TV with a buzzer, and it's you've got to get to the buzzer, you've got to get the answer before the time runs out, and you're trying to figure out the questions. And you challenge yourself. And that really put me in a position where I had to say, I have to suck up the last 25 years of my life, and I've got to make this happen. I've taken on this role. I've made these commitments. I have to deliver. However we do it, between the shareholders and with this small team that we've inherited, right? And I must give credit to my small team. They were incredible. There was a lot of that, which I think we'll probably talk about a little bit later. in there. But that was probably my hardest challenge, I would say, or surprising challenge. I thought it would get easier the higher up I went, but I found that it was actually the toughest challenge was right at the end, and when we done our Q review, I said to you just before we jumped on the call, we had just got back from Thailand from our Q reviews. To see where we were and where we are now is just incredible. Of course, the board's aggressive. They keep pushing. We want to keep going, but, you look at it and you go, wow, it's an amazing feeling. So it makes all that worth it.
So the challenge of turning around a comparatively unsuccessful company to a very successful company financially.
Yeah.
Is there a specific example of success in that turnaround that you'd like to talk about?
I think cleaning up the house is like a saying I've always used when approaching a situation like this. I've done that on small scale for single individual businesses or regions, but doing it at such a large level, at a joint venture level between two mega companies, very strong educated shareholders that have both been in business for 50 to 70 years, You're not dealing with small fry, and both of them have two big head offices that are super powered. So you've got to have your stuff together. But I had this little thing called cleaning up the house, which just grew. And all I said was, cleaning up the house is, it's a 3-step process. Where are we today and how did we get here? So we can understand, our position, accept where we are and identify where these things went from. Where do we want to be and how do we get there? That obviously puts a bit of a roadmap together with the team and what needs to be done differently, moving forward so we can get to where we want to be, and those three, the specific here and those three is I made the team build this. I did not build the strategy, to be honest. Yeah. I led the strategy. I led the thought process. Obviously you want your team to be part of this whole process. There's no one-man show superhero kind of story in these kind of turnarounds. And the team surprised me. I learned a lot about them. And I think that was the beginning parts of a beautiful relationship between myself and a management team that were able to achieve such a quick turnaround in 24 months. For that was that symbiotic relationship, because we sat on the table together every day and we dealt with the problems face to face. We took accountability and ownership, and we almost, sometimes it was tough. Sometimes there's a bit of tough love, and and I think
so.
I don't know if that's giving you the answer you're looking for.
No. I want to explore that because you've talked about strategy change management, and you keep repeating the key factor of having a great team around you.
Sure.
And I want to ask you a question. What do you believe are the most important qualities for an effective leader when it comes to building and managing a team?
I'd definitely say transparency, integrity, and just honesty, being real, keeping it real, being engaged with your team, making time for them. There's a lot of guys that like to dress in a 3-piece suit, and I might be in a lot of trouble with a couple of guys from Emirates and the airlines and this here. So sorry, Tyron and Tim and all the boys that side, but it's you get the guys that dress for success, and they just sit there, and it becomes a hierarchy structure. For me, I'm very unorthodox. I love to be engaged, part of the problems. I want to be in there with my team. I want to be driving that revolution, that whole moment, sharing as much of that energy as possible. It puts you in the moment, gets you to understand what your teams are going through. And I think it's really important for CEOs to be grounded and be involved and engaged.
I know that sort of goes into my next question, which is, how do you ensure your team remains motivated and aligned with your company's vision and goals?
I'm just trying to And see, I think, not to make it long-winded, I'm going to give you number 1 to 5, if that's fair.
Okay.
Because my mind's all over. Like I want to start on something, but I know I'm going to babble off on this because it's a very personal subject to me. I think just keep it simple. I always say to my guys, don't overcomplicate it, especially when it comes to decision-making, visions, strategies, whatever you're doing in life, keep it simple. It's like, if you're doing a master's or a dissertation in master's, or you're doing a thesis in a doctorate, you start off with a very broad topic, and it's so hard to write it because it's just too much, and the same goes for a strategy. And for a normal manager, they don't have those research skills and those tools that a lot of people that have studied all these things have been given to make it simple. Keep it easy, and once we keep it simple, we are able then to work through these small things as a team and put together simple goals that are achievable. This little SMART method. My team keeps bringing up SMART, and I said that if it works, go for it. That's that specific, measurable. And it was a good refresher for me because I remember that from years ago. Yeah, relative time.
Realistic and time-based, yeah.
And I said to them, well, I'm glad you've got a system that works for you, but for me, keep it simple, keep it clear, keep it well communicated with your team, measure everything, all these objectives. There needs to be a measurement for it. You can't just speculate and put things out there. I need to keep the guys going and growing. We need to be moving forward. So we need to be able to measure, but at the same time, be engaged as a leader so you can coach to keep that progression, that timeline moving. Otherwise, it gets stagnant. And you also find if you're not there from a coaching perspective and measuring, you find that people start moving off in different directions. We're human. We have our own ways of thinking. And if you're not in control of that as a leader, you'll find that all these strong characters and great minds around you start going off in different directions. So you need to it's almost, I want to say herding, but that sounds so bad. You need to keep it directed.
Well, you've got to bring them along with you. You've got to bring them along with you.
Yeah.
And the common denominator in actually executing on a strategy is that vision and the goals associated with achieving that vision.
And keeping them focused. Yeah.
And that keeps the focus, because when people do go off piste, it's the worst you can do is sort of say stop. You've got to get back on the track.
Yeah.
When they actually might have a great idea,
they do.
But right now, its time isn't.
It's not now
in the strategy, and you can't demotivate them that way. And one of the things that I'm a great believer in. I love strategy. It's something that I was exposed to in the military, and I've really taken a lot of learning from that and applied it in business. And guess what? It does work. Where people get it confused and where it starts to fall to bits is when they say, "Oh, let's go and do strategic planning," because strategy and planning are two separate things. They always have been and always will be. And I could go on for that, but I'm not going to. But I just want to actually...
Just my number 5 before you... I know you're going to hit me on the next question.
Oh, sorry, I thought you'd done 5. My bad.
Because this is the important one for the CEOs to know out there. Rewards and recognition. It starts at the bottom and it grows and it keeps going to the top. It never stops. Take the time out to go be aware of that strategy or strategic planning program or objectives and SMART, who's done what, and do it publicly, do it privately, however, different cases, different scenarios. But don't forget that along that journey, a strategy is long. They could be short, medium, long terms. But when you've set those in and you've got the teams buying, they become very personal with this. To keep that personal level of accountability, you as their leader have to be continuously involved and engaged, and go reward them and recognize them for it, and go, I actually noticed the difference in A, B, C, D, E. What have you done today? And let them work through it with you. And you go, well, thank you for all the effort. I'm actually seeing it. I'm feeling it. It gives me goosebumps when I actually see it go. You don't understand the difference it makes to that person when they walk out that office going, he actually noticed that small little detail. And a lot of guys miss it. Your whole strategy falls apart and the buying falls apart 30-40% of the way through and gets diluted purely just because we're not adding that. I recognize you, I see it, I feel it, I note the difference. So well done, keep it going.
That's wonderful.
You know?
Yeah. That's great stuff. So let's talk about strategic growth and partnerships very quickly. Given your extensive experience, Charl, in franchising and joint ventures, what do you see are the critical components of a successful strategic partnership?
This is a lot easier than your previous question. The other one was like, I think not to be not to be textbook about this. I think just aligned values. You know, when you're looking at any form of franchisor partnership or joint ventures, you know, it's important to have common aligned values. For us as a business, you know, we need to understand our values and what we want to achieve. When we select partners with common values that obviously match. That makes for a good partnership, right? That's, I think, just the grounding. And remember, it's a partnership, so you need to be aligned. If those values are not there, you're probably off to the wrong start from the beginning. I would definitely say devil's in the detail. I think I use that phrase too much sometimes with our legal team. But I think definitely check your commercials, do your due diligence on whoever you're doing partnership with, whoever you want to grow with, who you're considering to potentially grow with in different markets, or if you're doing a merger or acquisition or whatever kind of partnership. I would say the strategy needs to be reciprocal. I'll explain it in one sentence. I'd say reciprocal means both parties need to be part of that strategy. A lot of times you get people getting to business and they go, all right, so what are we doing? You know, it needs to be reciprocal, because halfway through the journey, you'll end up finding a lot of conflict, you know, in that. So I think reciprocal strategies are always important when getting into strategic growth and partnerships, you know, and looking at how to grow and develop. You need to be in alliance, not just in values, but in the planning process going forward. And then I say to the guys, always cross your T's and dot your I's. You know, it's an old saying my gran taught me. It's an old saying I live by. With all your articles of associations, all your master franchise agreements, that there's so much content in there. You know, you need to be aware of it as a CEO. So your strategy and what you've signed up for, you know, you need to make sure you've double checked. You know, and I'd say when you get that, you start building a level of confidence, you know, and then you can start working more on the relationship with partners, or, you know, working on other things. But you need to do some of those that groundwork needs to be in place, in my opinion, for strategic growth and partnerships. I think that's sort of like a very summarized foundation, you know.
Absolutely key. You know, make sure your values are aligned. Make sure you're both contributing to the strategy. Make sure that you've covered all the bases with a high degree of due diligence and attention to detail. That's absolutely. I mean, these are simple messages that, you know, I've seen fail, because I've seen people who haven't done one or all three of those items.
And we still fail at them for some reason. You know, why did I do that?
Yeah. And, you know, it's not like doing the Oracle thing where, you know, 3 months' time, we're all, you're all just completely painted Oracle and everything's changed. It's not as easy as that, I know.
It's definitely not.
I want to close by looking at some personal insights and advice to our listeners. I think we've already covered it, but it's a great repeat question. You know, what keeps you grounded and continuously learning in your leadership journey?
So what keeps me grounded? I definitely need challenge. I loved your first question when you opened this. It got me so enthused. I landed up typing so much. I think I needed a 3-hour podcast, because you hit it on a topic that is very
30 minutes, that's all.
I know, we have to do a couple of more of these. But I love challenges and problem solving, Simon. For me, personal insights and advice that keeps me grounded. I'm always looking for problems. You know, I have to find them. You know, if you get to that level of comfort, I start building a level of anxiety, and I actually get aggravated. You know, if I cannot find a problem, there's always something. You know, you have to be curious. You have to go find it. And when things are too good to be true, the chances are they are. there's something else happening, right? So you need to be curious, but I mean in a healthy manner, not be all
unnecessarily
disruptive and
yeah.
counterproductive. Yeah. But you got to continuously be hunting for the new challenge, solving problems. But also, if you find that instead of driving yourself crazy like that, again, this is where work-life balance comes in. Sometimes things are at a pace where you need to give it a bit of space to develop. And this is where go out cycling, go out swimming, go spend time with your family. Goes back to that work-life balance. If you have checked it and you're feeling confident that things are fairly good, sometimes you also need to take a bit of time out. This could be that moment, in your time management planning to step out, get a bit of a break, come back, and then go relook at things with a fresh set of eyes,
Yeah.
I think sometimes that helps. I'll give you, if don't know how many minutes we got.
Yeah, we got a couple more minutes, and then I've got one more question. But
so I'll keep it simple on this one. So now things after 2.5 years, we're all eureka, we're getting there. I am taking a little bit of time out. My team is ready. They're so aggressive. They're on the ground. They're all over the place. Now they keep me running on my feet. It's like it just keeps going. So that means I need to find more projects for them to do now, so to keep them busy so they give me a bit of space. But I put my doctorates on hold for this position. But even though I've done that, I take some time out with the family, but then I mix it up again because 2 weeks with the family, there's only so much time I can do. Nothing against my wife and kids, but there's only so much time I can spend with them, and then I need some quiet time. I need to be careful here.
Yeah, they don't help with your studies. You don't spend 2 weeks saying, right, get the books out and test me. It's not that, is it?
It is that. So I took on a couple of these little weekend courses. So I've got a few days with the kids and with the wife. And then when they want to go do the activities I don't want to do, I got to log on to the online courses for Lean Six Sigma, PMP. So, yeah. But that doesn't work for everyone. That's just, the point is different strokes for different folks, just keep it fresh.
You're absolutely right. Everybody's got to find their way of decompressing.
Yeah.
And actually, whatever it is, I've got mine from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock on a Saturday. I'll be doing art now. It used to be in the morning. Now it's in the afternoon. So, but don't disturb me because you're not going to get anywhere. So I want to finish off. Last question. What's next for you and Liwa Minor Foods and Beverages LLC? Are there any exciting projects or initiatives on the horizon that you can share with us?
This is a very good one. Yeah, this is a good one, an easy one. It just came out of my strategy deck now. We were happy to report of so we actually have tomorrow. I'm picking up our partners for a new continent signing. We're signing a new continental agreement for one of our brands as a penetration brand. So it's very exciting. It's at quite a lot of scale. It's across 3 countries as a start, and then we'll merge it. So on that continent, so it's really exciting. We have new brand portfolios we're busy looking at now to onboard. Obviously, there's quite a bit of demand for us to diversify our brand portfolio, not just for us in our equity portfolio, but also in our franchising business for our franchisees out there. And then we have a new opening, another one. I know we've just opened the Wafi Mall one now, which was a fantastic opening for us in the local market. And now we have a new opening in September. I cannot tell you because my head of marketing, Michaela, will take me to the cleaners, but if I let things out before her media launch.
No, keep it a secret. Bigger surprise. Look forward to that.
But it's coming in September. Keep your eyes open. It's going to be there. We're going to be bringing another coffee club to Dubai. I can tell you that, and then I can't tell you
too much information. You've already ruined it. Michaela's going to be after you. Charl, it's been an absolute pleasure talking about your leadership journey, about your insights, the challenges, the successes you've had. I could talk for hours with you. It's been great. And thank you for sharing your time in such a busy schedule for you. I look forward to hopefully working with you in the future. And we'll certainly come back and give you another chat, perhaps at the end of the year, when you can tell us all those good things that are in the pipeline and how they've evolved. That's been great. Keep well, keep safe, and thank you again.
Will do. And thank you so much for your time, Simon. This was an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye-bye.